Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Or if you're new here, a big warm welcome. I'm really glad you're tuning in today. So, what are we diving into? Well, let's rewind to 2020, when Apple launched the second generation iPhone SE. It made waves back then, packing flagship-level performance into a compact, affordable body. Fast forward to 2025, yep, 5 whole years later, and it's time to ask the question, is the iPhone SE 2 still worth using today? Or has time finally caught up with it? Let's be real. 5 years is a long time in the tech world. Phones have gotten faster, bigger, smarter, and more expensive. But surprisingly, the SE2 is still holding on for some users. I actually ran into a friend recently who's still using it. I asked how it's holding up, and he just smiled and said, "It does everything I need, and I love the size." And honestly, that makes sense. If you're someone who uses their phone for basics, texting, calling, browsing, a bit of social media, the SE2 can still handle all that without breaking a sweat. But of course, there's the flip side. The tech world hasn't exactly stood still. Modern phones come with faster chips, better displays, bigger batteries, and incredible cameras. Compared to that, the SE2 might feel a bit outdated, especially if you're into gaming, photography, or want things like Face ID, a higher refresh rate screen, or the latest AI features. So, is the iPhone SE2 still usable in 2025? Absolutely. Is it ideal for everyone? Probably not. It really comes down to what you need from a phone. If you love that classic iPhone feel and don't need all the modern bells and whistles, the SE2 might still be a solid little workhorse, even 5 years later. Let's talk about the design because honestly, this is where the iPhone SE2 shows its age the most. At first glance, it's basically an iPhone 8 throwback. You've got the familiar aluminum frame, glass front and back, and of course that iconic home button with Touch ID. And hey, some people still love that home button. It's tactile, fast, and just feels satisfying to use. If you're not a fan of Face ID or gestures, this might still be your comfort zone. But let's be real. In 2025, this design looks pretty dated. Those large bezels above and below the 4.7-inch screen? They stick out in a world filled with edge-to-edge OLED displays. Most modern phones have minimized the bezels for a more immersive experience, and the SE2 just doesn't follow that trend. That said, there's a plus side. The phone's compact size makes it super easy to hold in pocket. If you find today's larger phones a bit too much, this form factor still has its appeal. And despite its age, the build quality holds up really well. The aluminum and glass combo still feels premium. Plus, it's rated IP67 for water and dust resistance, which adds peace of mind. Now for the display itself. The SE2 uses a 4.7-inch LCD panel. For basic tasks, it's perfectly fine. Text is sharp, colors are decent, and brightness is adequate for indoor use. But compared to newer OLED screens, especially the one on the iPhone 16, you'll notice the difference. You won't get those deep blacks, rich contrast, or HDR support. If you're a heavy media consumer or gamer, the small, non-OLED display might feel a bit underwhelming. But for casual use, it still gets the job done. Performance-wise, the SE2 is powered by Apple's A13 Bionic chip, the same one found in the iPhone 11 series. Back when it launched, this chip was a powerhouse, and even in 2025, it still handles everyday tasks like browsing, social media, messaging, and video streaming without much issue. For light users, that's more than enough. But once you start pushing the phone with more demanding apps or newer games, that's where things begin to show their age. Try running some of today's graphics-heavy titles, and you'll likely see lag, longer load times, or dropped frames. And while iOS still runs well overall, the A13 doesn't match up to newer chips like the A15 in the SE3 or the A18 in the iPhone 16 series. It's also got just 3 gigabytes of RAM, which can feel a little tight if you're someone who likes to multitask heavily. Plus, don't expect to get Apple's newest AI-based features. Those are reserved for newer hardware. Bottom line? It's still very usable for basic needs, but for power users it may start to feel a bit outdated. One of the biggest perks of owning an iPhone is Apple's long-term software support. Typically, iPhones receive major iOS updates for about 5 to 7 years. The iPhone SE 2 launched with iOS 13.4, and here in early 2025, it's still getting updates, including iOS 18. That's honestly impressive for a phone released 5 years ago. However, the clock is ticking. It's likely nearing the end of its major update cycle. While it may still receive security patches for a while after support ends, new iOS features and improvements will eventually stop coming. That can lead to app compatibility issues over time. So yes, it's still supported now, but if software longevity is important to you, just be aware. The SE2's update life is almost up. The iPhone SE2 comes with a single 12-megapixel rear camera. Back when it launched, this camera was actually quite solid, especially for a budget-friendly iPhone. In good lighting, it still holds up reasonably well in 2025, producing sharp and natural-looking photos. But as smartphone photography has evolved, the SE2 is clearly starting to show its age. The biggest downside is its lack of a dedicated night mode. Low-light photography is where this phone really struggles. Without that software optimization, images in dim environments often turn out grainy, soft, or just plain unusable. I recently tried snapping a picture of my cat in a low-lit room. And yeah, it came out blurry and underwhelming. Another limitation is the single-lens setup. There's no ultra-wide or telephoto option here, so you're stuck with a fixed perspective. You can zoom digitally, but that quickly degrades the image quality. Portrait mode is available and works okay, but without advanced depth sensors, edge detection can be hit or miss. In comparison, newer models like the iPhone 16e offer vastly improved camera systems. If photography matters to you, the SE2 might no longer cut it. Let's talk about the battery. And yeah, this is a big one. The original iPhone SE2 shipped with a pretty small battery to begin with, just around 1,821 milliampere hours. And now, in 2025, after 5 years of regular use, that battery is likely feeling the strain. I came across a post where someone said their SE2's battery health had dropped to 74% after just 3 years, and that's honestly not surprising. By this point, most users are probably noticing shorter screen-on time and needing to reach for the charger way more often. Now, the good news is that Apple still offers battery replacements, and earlier this year, they were charging around $69, which isn't terrible. If you're tech-savvy, a DIY battery swap is also an option. Not impossible, but definitely not for everyone. Some folks use battery cases to get through the day, though they do add bulk to that sleek, compact design. So really, you'll need to ask yourself, is a battery replacement worth it? Or is it time to just move on to something newer? All right, let's quickly go over some of the main drawbacks of using the iPhone SE2 as your daily driver in 2025. First off, the design. It's clearly dated now, with those big bezels and a small 4.7-inch screen that feels cramped for media consumption, multitasking, or anything that benefits from a larger display. That compact size might appeal to some, but for most people, it just feels limiting. Then there's the battery life. As we discussed earlier, after 5 years, most SE2 units will be running on degraded batteries. Unless you've had it replaced recently, expect to reach for the charger more than you'd like. Camera-wise, you're limited to a single 12-megapixel rear shooter with no ultra-wide or telephoto lens and no dedicated night mode. In good lighting, it still does okay, but it just doesn't compete with today's multi-camera setups, even on budget phones. Another downside, no 5G. While 4G LTE still works fine, data speeds won't match what you'd get on newer devices. You're also missing out on MagSafe support for accessories and wireless charging conveniences that many users now consider essential. Performance-wise, the A13 Bionic chip still handles basic tasks like browsing and social media fine, but it's showing its age. With only 3 gigabytes of RAM, you might run into app reloads or slower multitasking. And don't expect support for the newest features like Apple Intelligence. They're reserved for newer chips like the A18. So, should you still buy an iPhone SE2 in 2025? It depends. If you're on an extremely tight budget and you can score a used one for around $100 or less, it might still be worth it. especially if you just need a simple, reliable phone for calls, texts, and light use. Or maybe you love the compact size and Touch ID. In that case, the SE2 is still one of the few iPhones with a physical home button. But for most people looking for a main phone, I'd say no. There are better options out there that don't cost much more. A used iPhone SE3 gets you 5G and a newer chip. A used iPhone 13 gives you a modern design, Face ID, and a better display and camera. And of course, keep an eye out for the iPhone 16e, Apple's latest budget-friendly model with a bigger OLED screen, better camera, Face ID, and the powerful A18 chip. So in conclusion, while the SE2 is still functional and might work as a backup or entry point into iOS, its age and limitations make it hard to recommend as a primary device in 2025. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Catch you in the next one.